Welcome into another edition of The Session with Londa and David. My name is David Austin.
I'm Londa Sherwood Austin. Welcome back. And excuse my little fighting a little cold.
Having a little bit of a throat thing today.
Fighting a little cold.
Well, good news for you. We've got some home coffee that will help you through it. And remember, home coffee, it's on the house.
Yeah, you already paid for it.
That's right. I love it when I go places and people quote me to me. And
Yes.
that happened over the weekend.
It did.
Hey, look, I'm having home coffee. It's on the house.
Yeah, that was funny. That was fun.
I do love that. I do love that.
Yes.
The Session with Londa and David is kind of a business program, but it's also a lifestyle program.
It's whatever we want it to be.
That's exactly right. And, you know, I think it's a lot of fun doing this with the person I like the most in the whole wide world, and that's you, Londa Joanne Sherwood Austin. I think you're pretty awesome.
Thank you. Thank you. We had a fun anniversary over the weekend, anniversary date on Saturday, March 15th. It was the date 4 years ago that I had my big surgery to rid my body of all its cancerous cells.
And eradication, as it were.
And eradication. So 4 years, that's a long time.
Well, that's exactly right. And I got to tell you, every time I look back in my memories on social media and see that coming up, and, you know, I remember the day that you had that surgery, and it was one of the most, blessing-filled days that I can remember. But boy, I was scared more than I've ever been before. When you were laying there in that hospital bed right before they wheeled you back.
Yeah.
That was very emotional when you looked at me and told me you didn't want to die.
Yeah.
I remember. I don't mean to bring the mood
scared.
down, but
well, I think we talk about everything, right?
Yeah.
If this is a lifestyle show, this is life.
And then they gave you propofol, and like magic, you no longer had stress. No wonder Michael Jackson used it to go to sleep. You know what I mean?
I'm telling you.
If you got some weird stuff on your mind, that takes it all away.
That's some good stuff. I wish they'd given it to me a lot sooner. It would have been a lot easier. But that's the reality of life. Is it's an emotional roller coaster, and learning to manage your emotions, lead your emotions, feel your emotions, let them move through you is a whole bunch of skill set.
Yeah.
That, you know, for me personally, I'm good at some of it, not good at some of it. I don't know. It was a very terrifying day for me. It was also during COVID, so it was very weird. You know, I had to go to all my pre-op appointments and all of my test appointments and all the horrible, horrible things the medical community still does to women. I had to do all that by myself because it was COVID. And yeah, it was awful. The whole thing leading up to it. You know, the weather was nice because we were in Florida, but also being away from the family, I think, was not good for me during that. And anyway, so by the time we got to the day of surgery, it was pretty emotionally charged for me.
Yeah. And I was the whole time certain everything was going to be great. At no time did I think anything bad would happen until the moment that you grabbed my hand there in that pre-op hospital bed and you were scared. That became the scariest moment of my life.
Yeah, and I think those are some of the survival skills that we've developed, right? So you being people, humans, we develop these survival skills in order to survive life. And oftentimes they're things that they're stories we tell ourselves in order to survive whatever we're going through, typically at a young age, right? So one of your survival skills that has served you really well is everything is good.
Yes.
You leave no room for anything negative at all.
That's right. I don't like it.
Right. And so that was how you approached it from the minute we got like the first weird test, like, hey, it's an abnormal PAP. We need you to come back. You know, from that moment, all the way forward, you didn't really let yourself think or feel anything negative at all, to the point that I was like, okay, I'll find somebody else to talk to about this, because because my survival skill, I have to worst case scenario it.
Right.
I have to, just like you have to look at it positively to survive, or you'll just shut down. I have to look at, okay, worst case, what would happen, and then factor all of that. So this is really interesting, actually. We all do it, and we all do it in every aspect of our life, not just this one.
Right.
And anytime you feel super strong emotions come up, I would encourage anybody listening, if you have a super strong emotion like flare up in you all of a sudden, maybe take some time and examine that. It's probably a trigger, and, decide if it's serving you or not.
Well, and that for me is the thing, right? The reason I don't make room for worst case scenarios is because let's look at it logically. What's the absolute worst case scenario? Well, the worst case scenario is you could die.
Right.
Right? Well, depending on what your belief system is, dying maybe isn't so bad. Do you know what I mean? If when you die, you go to a place where you eat an endless buffet and there's no ship that you've got to be on trapped in, maybe it's pretty nice. You eat all you want, you never gain weight. What was that movie? Meryl Streep was in it, where they went to heaven, and heaven was an all-you-can-eat buffet where you never gain weight.
Oh, I don't know. I've never heard of that movie.
Yeah, it's
Google that.
Defending Your Life. Yep.
Oh.
Yep.
Interesting.
I think it might be a Rob Reiner movie.
I don't know.
It could be. It's one of those. Albert Brooks is in it.
Albert
Brooks is driving his Saab down the street, convertible, and he's trying to put in a CD, and the CD drops, and so he leans down to pick it up, head-on collision, he's dead. Boom. That's how the movie starts.
Oh.
And he's standing in line in heaven, and he has to defend his life.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good movie. Funny movie. But so if that's the worst thing that can happen.
I think this is interesting, though, because this is how deep your survival skill of happiness goes, that even when you're trying to factor what's the worst that could happen, you turn it into a happy thing.
Well, true, because stress and anxiety don't add to your quality of life. They take away. Do you know that if you live under stress and anxiety, your lifespan is shortened by something like 8 years?
Which is why I believe that if I don't know if I want to get into that. So anxiety is something that I live with 24/7 now, because it is. It's very common. No, it's very common in menopause. So I used to have a little bit of anxiety, like a little touch. I'd have a little touch here and there. Menopause, I feel anxious. I would say probably 80-90% of the time.
Okay. That sounds horrible.
I rarely feel like everything's okay. And so, but it's menopause. It's because, I don't know.
There's some weird hormonal thing.
It's not weird. It just happens. So I do have a point about this, but so when I don't make estrogen anymore. So without estrogen, you can't make serotonin and dopamine. So not that there's none, there's very little. Without serotonin and dopamine, you don't have your everything's going to be okay and feel good hormones.
Okay.
So it's a chemical thing in the brain. Not much I can do about it. This is just life. But I wonder, I do have to wonder if men hit a point in life, and they do, there's andropause, but you have different things that happen, and they felt anxious like women do in menopause, because medicine has been a male-dominated field, would we already have figured it out? That's my question. Would we already have figured it out?
The answer is I don't know.
Women suffer with menopause.
Sure.
So just like women often suffer in healthcare, I kind of mentioned it before, testing that I had to go through. We have, we don't get anesthesia for some of these tests that I had to go through, and they're extremely painful, just like there's no anesthesia offered for an IUD placement for women. And there should be. It's extremely painful. But I noticed that the new male contraceptive that is, what do they do? They inject the, what's the tube called? The tube, when you have a vasectomy, they clip it.
Oh,
the vas deferens, is that what it's called?
Vas deferens, yes.
Yeah, there you go. So they, I think, inject it, and it's a male birth control.
I have not heard of this. I did, however, have a vasectomy.
But I will say that they offer anesthesia. Thank you. And this is another menopause symptom, is not being able to think of words that you absolutely know. So
that's interesting.
Anesthesia, they offer anesthesia for a local anesthesia for the male birth control. But a woman who is getting an IUD still doesn't have the option for anesthesia.
Yeah, I don't know how any of that works. All I know is I don't the crank thing.
It's not
speculum.
That. It's when the IUD is
no, but you got to use the speculum to get it in there.
Yeah, but that's like the easiest part of it, and it's still painful.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't know how we got off on all that.
I don't know how we got off on this either.
Because we were talking about survival skills, and when I run out of, this is where I was going. When I run out of survival skills, and I've got nothing left in the tank, I'm just left with terror, which is where I was when you finally got scared about my surgery.
Yeah. And it was because of your experience I got scared, right? You looked more fearful than I had ever seen you, because normally you're pretty dialed in. You don't have a ton of outward fear-based presentation.
Sure.
You know what I mean? You present pretty self-assured and pretty dialed in. So to see you at that state scared me. Like, oh my God, this could be real.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that was the only time that I felt that way.
Yeah.
And it was awful. And
it's weird because now I have just a little bit of that scared feel almost all the time.
Yeah. Ow.
It's awful. I hate
sucks.
menopause so much.
That's why I don't break the law. Here's what I mean by that. I watch these shows, like the one that we saw, the documentary about the guy in North Carolina who killed his wife and son so they wouldn't find out he'd embezzled all of the family's law money, the redheaded guy. You remember that story. It was a big deal. We watched the trial in real time when that was going on.
Shoot, what was the name? Anyone listening, you're all saying it out loud. I can hear you.
Anyway, that whole case, I don't know how that guy functioned day to day. Because if you're embezzling from your business and you're writing hot checks so that it never catches up to you, I mean, how do you sleep at night? That level of anxiety, the worst. That's why I can't do that. Propofol, you need it. Yeah. Makes you forget your first 6-year-old. That's a bad joke. Because of Michael Jackson. Bad joke.
Oh, yeah. That doesn't land with me at all.
No, that's a terrible joke.
It's not a joke.
Awful.
It's just poor taste.
Awful.
Sorry, we apologize for that. Save your emails. Don't worry.
Right. But Billie Jean's still a great song.
You know what? Yeah. Yeah. And, that's the thing. So... but we had that anniversary. That's where I was talking about, and that was great. Over the weekend,
we had a lovely day trip to our friends at Frechette Winery, and we went and did our shipment pickup on our day date. It was awesome. We held hands and wine tasted, and got to talk with our friends, the Frechettes, and That was lovely.
Yeah. But again, and I don't mean to be a downer, but this is real. Anybody who's in menopause is going to relate to this. You develop new allergies in menopause. So then I had an allergic reaction, and I had a miserable time for hours after that. I mean, it was it was so fun to be there. And then I was like, wow, this is such a great time. And then, kapla.
Yeah. I don't know what to say about that other than it was a lovely time.
Yeah, it's nobody's fault except, sometimes allergies is no one's fault. It just happened.
Yes. The selection of wines, though, wonderful.
Beautiful, lovely.
Wonderful.
Their Zinfandel port thing that they've got cooking.
Yep.
Really good.
Really good with a cigar. So enjoy that on your back patio.
Yeah.
So it's a port finished Zinfandel.
Yep.
Dessert wine, and it is beautiful. And if you ask Shay Frechette, she'll tell you once you open it, it has a little longer shelf life than your standard bottle of wine because it is
fortified.
Mm-hmm. So if you have an opportunity to go out there and buy a bottle of that, I recommend it because that is very fun with cigars. If you're a cigar person, very fun. Yeah. I have done that with that Zinfandel a couple of times and loved it. Loved it. I kept it on my shelf longer than I should have, though, because she said it's good for like a week.
Like 2 weeks or something. I can't remember what she said.
I think I had it for 6 months. And it never got bad tasting. Never.
But not manufacturer recommended time frame.
No, I didn't tell her that because I didn't want her to look at me funny. But yeah, I had it for a long time. And it was just as delightful as the day I opened it. But what I do is I dip the mouth side end of my cigar into it, and then I smoke my cigar. And that is delightful.
I gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Delightful.
So we had a couple of houses that we listed on the market. Just take a sharp left turn here. We listed a couple houses on the market at the end of February, and then we went on that terrible, terrible cruise that we told you about last week. And if you want to hear about that, you can listen to last week's show. But we came home, and this last week got both of those listings under contract.
That's right.
Which is fun.
And they're in the price point where it usually takes 90.
Average days on market currently is 64 for the $537,000 one. Average days on market for the $730,000 one is a little bit longer than that. Average days on market for us, though, is at last calculation 31.
Which is longer than the new calculation because these both went under contract in about 14 and a half days.
Yeah.
So
28 maybe.
Badow.
Yeah.
Spakack.
And again, a little bit of a lot of skill, but a little bit of luck too. A little bit of luck. So, which is appropriate for this St. Patrick's Day week.
That's exactly right. St. Patrick's Day. This is our St. Patrick's Day edition of the program. That's why we both have a little bit of green on us. And she's got
my 4-leaf clover.
Yep. I'm looking over a 4-leaf clover that I've
overlooked. It's for faith,
before.
hope, luck, and love. And I got it after that surgery we just talked about.
Oh, there you go. 4 years ago. And we have a birthday for little Caitlin, the Cadelweiss coming up. Caitlin Austin is going to be 27.
I want to say.
I think that's true. She's from 1998, so 27. That's exciting. That's happening this week. I'm very excited about that. I haven't talked to her in a week. I called her all weekend trying to see what her plans are for her birthday and have not heard back. So hopefully she hears this, feels shame, and picks up the phone.
Hopefully she's not Gene Hackman.
Wow. I don't.
Last night we could not get a hold of one of our kids. Now, it wasn't just last night. I started trying to reach this kid 3:00 Saturday afternoon.
Okay.
By last night, I had texted a few times. I had called. Nothingness, nothing in the wind. Nothing in the wind at all. So then I started reaching out to the siblings closest to this kid. Hey, have you heard from, just curious, I'm sure everything's fine. They're probably just taking a down weekend. I didn't believe any of that, by the way. None of it. Just trying to convince my brain. Nope, untrue. So I reach out to another sibling. Hey, have you heard from? Both of them answered with, yeah, that's weird. What's going on? I just tried calling. I didn't get an answer either. Right. That's weird.
Right.
So finally I was like, nope, we're getting in the car. Getting in the car, going over. Welfare check.
Yep. I knew everything was fine, but you started to get cagey.
I started to get a little panicked.
And so I suggested we go over there, and you're like, no, we don't need to do that. No.
But
then
a little
later. Then you needed to.
Yes. When the one sibling said, yeah, that is weird. I usually hear back within an hour from this person. And so I was like, nope, that's it.
But now we know of a new family tradition in that house that on Sundays they put their phones away and turn them off and put them away so that nobody has their phones. They do a phone-free Sunday.
Great.
And I think that is an awesome, cool idea that I cannot do because my phone ringing is money. If my phone rings, there's money there. I got to answer that.
Right. Yeah, that's great for them. Just
I think it is
let
awesome.
People know if you're going to do that. That's what I say. Let people know.
Well, now we know. We didn't know before, but now we know.
Right. But I was glad we didn't walk into some horrible mess.
Well,
your brain goes to happy, my brain goes to tragedy.
Literally, when you're like, I wonder what's going on over there, I picture, they're out on their bicycles having fun. They're somewhere in the wilderness partying like rock stars. That's where my head goes. And it never goes to one of them's dead in the laundry room and the cat is eating their face.
Literally, cat eating face is what was right there.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know why you feel that.
I don't know why you feel
happy.
See what I'm saying? No. You do know why. You do, because it's survival skills. I have to factor worst case scenario.
And I have to factor.
And start getting ready for it. And you have to factor the happiest story you can tell yourself.
It's interesting that we're talking about that in survival skills. One thing that has been a sticking point for you with my personality since we got together is when you tell me about somebody who's doing something underhanded or dirty dealing, I often think, well, that can't possibly be. And I try to defend the behavior somehow. Because to me, in my brain, being unkind isn't a thing people do. Do you know what I mean?
Precious.
Well, so one thing that frustrates you about me is when you're talking to me about somebody and I'm like, well, they probably didn't mean that. And my brain just does that.
I think it's not accurate to say it frustrates me. I understand why you do it, and I don't get frustrated unless it's certain. There's one or two people that if I'm talking shit about them, you better just fall in line. Fall in line. We're talking.
It's hard for. I don't want to do that. That's not a behavior pattern that I'm.
No,
I
know.
Yeah,
but when you defend, somebody who is an enemy of mine, and I don't have many, one or two. And you defend them, but then it's easily, we can easily avoid it because I don't need to talk about people.
Well, and just the term enemy. Do people really have enemies? Are there enemies?
I certainly do have one or two. Yeah.
I mean, I get it in the comic book trope of an arch enemy like Superman and Lex Luthor. I get that. But are there really people? Do people have that real dynamic in real life with other people? I don't know that. I don't have that. There are people that I choose not to spend time with because they have been mean to you, or if somebody's mean to one of the kids, you know what I mean? That's when I draw the line and say, whoa, whoa, whoa. But
right.
I don't have anybody that I can think of that I would consider an enemy. Do you have?
Sure.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, you do me dirty enough. Absolutely. I mean, I'm pretty long suffering.
Right.
I really am. years and years and years, chances and chances and chances. I really am pretty long suffering. And then when I get to the point, sometimes there is no coming back.
Okay.
And it crosses over and there is no coming back from it. And usually it's because it typically is a relationship that I've put a lot of trust in, and then that trust was highly violated.
Right.
And that's it. I won't put myself in the position of being violated in that way again. And that's really what it is. It's defense mechanism for sure.
Okay, so
I'm self-aware enough to be able to tell you exactly what's going on.
But that seems to me like they're less of an enemy than someone who you avoid on purpose because they have hurt you.
Yeah. To me, that's the same thing.
Well,
and I guess for me, yeah. Now, I think you're right. Maybe I don't have enemies. I have people that I avoid,
right?
Because I won't allow them to. I mean, like they are not allowed to even. Don't even speak to me.
Yeah.
Like no. Now I will say though, if you've hurt one of my kids, you for sure are my enemy. You're dead to me. I'm not just avoiding you. I want to hurt you.
That's interesting, right? That's interesting.
It's my babies.
I kind of have the reason I like movies like Death Wish is because
I'm not familiar with Death Wish. So can you give us a brief?
Charles Bronson, Death Wish. They remade it with Bruce Willis before he had the problem with his communication. It's essentially somebody did something to their family. Well, now we're getting some payback. It's vigilante justice, right?
Yeah.
I think those are such fun stories to watch because they're absolutely outrageous in my brain. But I like to think if somebody hurt one of my family, I could, like make arrows out of rocks and sticks and get those people. That's not what they do in Death Wish.
But it's I think oftentimes people, and again, the list is very short. I don't want people thinking like I have a bunch of these people running around. It's a very short list.
And you know who you are.
They're sure as hell not listening to this. I can tell you that. Or maybe good. They are. There's one that I would say probably is. And you know who I'm talking about, and that's what I love the most about this.
Oh, that's funny
Mr.
stuff.
Mr. Pretendy.
Good stuff.
But I have, I'm typically the way that I deal with it is if I see a person like that out, we happen to run into each other or be at an event or, whatever, then I just avoid them and I don't talk to them. It's the nicest thing I can do. It's the kindest, most merciful thing I can do is just avoid them.
Yeah.
Because if I don't, God forbid they come up to me and try to start talking to me, because if I'm in a good place, if I'm high functioning place, then I can handle it. But if I'm not, and now menopause makes you not way more often than you used to be. But if I'm in a low vibration kind of place, I have been known to say things like, "Oh, are we pretending to be friends now?"
Well, I have done similar things too. In fact, I have one story.
David Austin.
I have one story where something like that happened. Somebody who was very unhappy with me, let's say, and I walked into an open house one day and that person was there and the realtor's like, "Oh, hey, David." And then this person was like, "Oh, hey, David." And I laid it on so thick. "Oh my God, are we talking? This is the greatest moment of my life." And I went up to this person and hugged them. The realtor called me when I left the open house laughing and said, "That was the funniest damn thing I've ever seen you do." I was just trying to make light of the situation for my own amusement.
I gotcha.
And now we're fine. That person and I are fine again. But it was the first time we'd spoken since.
Here's the thing I want to point out that you just said, "Now we're fine again." The thing about me.
There's no again.
There's no we're fine again. Oh, shit, no.
Well, the reason we
Mark it in time.
The reason
we
hadn't spoken is because this person was mad at me. You know, when you tell somebody you don't want to play in their toy box anymore, in their sandbox, they want to get you right out of their world sometimes.
You better not say too much or people will figure out what you're talking about.
Well, so we hadn't talked since I decided to leave the sandbox. And so when that happened, I thought it was so fun. I wasn't trying to embarrass this person, right? I was just trying to have fun with the situation because, oh my God, we're talking again. This is awesome.
And that's true to your personality.
Right. That's right. So yeah, here's why I'm like a golden retriever. Always happy to see you and wagging my tail, because I don't have the capacity to carry a grudge. I just don't.
I don't carry a grudge necessarily, but I am very protective. Yeah. I'm more like Black Cat.
Yeah.
You know?
And my Black Cat, Luke Skywalker, did have the Force, and I do think he was magical. I do. His sister, Princess Leia, they were twins. We didn't know that was the storyline then. It was 1979 when we named those cats. You know what I mean? We didn't know in the story arc that they were brother and sister yet. But they were.
Okay.
And they were black.
Got off in
they were black cats.
Weeds
and
there.
I wanted to name Luke Darth Vader because he was black, and Darth Vader is Dark Father in Old English. Yeah. So I wanted to name the cat Darth Vader, and my mother was like, "No, that's too dark. We need to go a little bit lighter. Let's go to the lighter side of the Force." Mm-hmm. And so
there
Luke
you go.
Skywalker and Princess Leia. There you go. That's my whole story on that. Mm-hmm. What else do you want to talk about during this show? Because we're at 30 minutes right now.
Well, I mean, I think that I didn't mean for it to go the way that it did, but maybe this will help people kind of look at themselves and look at the people close to them and make some understand each other a little bit better.
Well, and that's
thing, my hope.
Right?
My hope is that us being really transparent about who we are and how we process things helps other people understand themselves and the people they love even better.
And one thing you can take away from this episode is even if you and your partner have very different internal monologues, it can still work together beautifully.
Oh, yeah.
Like the whole anxiety thing that I cannot relate to that you've got cooking all the time. It does not hinder our relationship at all. It makes it more exciting. Do you know what I mean?
For you.
Yes, for me. We never know what's going to happen. It's exciting indeed.
I wouldn't say it hinders our relationship. But
no, it doesn't.
But it's not exciting for me. It's frustrating.
I know.
Because of how, I feel.
But I love hanging out with you and learning from you, so it works. For Londa, Joanne, Sherwood, Austin, I'm David Austin, and this has been The Session with Londa and David.